All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Eric Jr. podcast. I am your stand-in host, Jacob Klein. I am joined here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, by the only trustworthy Tobias Harris truther. That is Mr. Chris Lynch. Sir, how are you doing on this fine Monday evening?
I am fantastic as long as you do not look through my Twitter history. Please don't do that. But yes, I am fantastic.
Certainly would be problematic.
Yes. I am good. The Sixers won yesterday. We're recording Monday night. Sunday, pretty incredible day for Philly sports. I mean, the Sixers get that opening win of the playoffs. The Phillies stopped their losing streak, and the Union even picked up the win. So it was a rare, good things all around for Philadelphia sports. So I'm in a pretty good mood, man. How are you?
Always finding an opportunity to shout out the ostracized middle child, the Philadelphia Union. Gotta appreciate your consistency. I'm feeling pretty good. As you mentioned, an extremely entertaining slate of games to begin this NBA playoff season. Almost looks and feels like a different sport when you factor in the caliber of talent and the influx of the crowd noise and the energy surrounding the game. It has really been quite enjoyable. And we started off the right way. 1-0. We're 15 wins away from a championship, Cream. How are you feeling?
I feel good. I feel good about it. Game maybe not as maybe a little closer than a lot of people wanted or had hoped. But one way or another, the Sixers get the win. Do you have any overarching thoughts before we get into some specifics?
Yeah, on a macro level, I just want to kind of take a step back, and the idea of this game never being in doubt. I'm curious. It does seem like the consensus is, they were going to find a way. Right. Joel gets into foul trouble, which we'll talk about. The offense looked pretty stagnant early on, I would say. You've got the full bench playing, just waiting to flub up, and yet they steady the tide. And they pull out a 7-point victory, which if Russell Westbrook does not maybe step out of bounds, could have been a much messier and much uglier finish. We were kind of able to coast there at the very, very end. But just on a bigger level, right, in years past, the calling card of this Sixers team was not being able to close out the game correctly or get the ugly win. And they were able to do it this time. And I got to say, in the back of my mind, the ultimate pessimist that I am, I did think they were going to pull it out, and I think that's a different mentality, and that's what's different about this year.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I would say that pretty much the entire game, I was always sure that the Sixers were going to be able to make a run, and that speaks to a couple of different things. Obviously, the change of mentality that you mentioned, but also just the talent discrepancy between the two teams. It always felt like the Sixers were they never got too far out of reach, and it just took one 5-minute run to really separate it. And that's what ended up happening in the third quarter is, the Sixers were able to ratchet up the defense, get out in transition, and then, the shooters, very highly popular shooters started hitting shots. So when that happens, the Sixers team is obviously as dangerous as they come. And I think it's both a positive, for us looking forward and a different mentality that the team has, but also Washington's not very good, right? If we're being honest with ourselves, this isn't the strongest test. We will face a much stronger test. Are we to, move forward in the playoffs? But I agree overall, a positive showing.
Yeah, I mean, by not very good, if you mean record-wise, the worst team in the playoffs, I would definitely, double down on that for sure. But some really big, talking points for tonight's game. Obviously, the one that jumps out, Mr. Tobias Harris, dropping 28 in the first half and not finishing the game with more than 40 points, Green. That seemed just like a direct at my man, Chris Lynch, host of the Eric Jr. podcast, after coming out with the hard numbers last week and saying a 30-point playoff game from Tobias Harris, there is
Never
no
happened.
way.
Never happened before. Of course, he shows me up, and then of course, once I'm like, oh my God, he's going to do it. He's going to prove me wrong. Like, he's going to score 40 in the playoffs. Like, and then just in the second half, kind of not disappears, but shrinks into the background of the game and ends with a very solid 37 points. But I mean, it's got to be the most on-brand way to end a career playoff game for anybody live. Tobias Harris was very important in that first half. Obviously, the offense really, when Embiid went out, struggled mightily, as it often does. And Tobias was the one source of constant offense that they could turn to. And that's the formula, right? If Embiid's not out there, if he's not going, Tobias has stepped up this year in a way that makes you feel comfortable that he can carry the offense for 6-7 minutes, which he did in the first half yesterday. So pretty good, right?
Yeah, and, we obviously a huge caveat with it being that Washington is a roster where Tobias can really thrive, and really get cooking. Where when you're a championship caliber team, there's going to be series and matchups where guys are going to thrive. Some guys might not play, and then the next series, matchup dependent, a guy might be playing a very important 20 minutes a game. So this, obviously the team is struggling. Joel's in foul trouble. We needed it, but just on a general level, Tobias being able to, score efficiently and consistently was really nice to see.
His own looks, yeah, I agree. Well, speaking of, we did mention in the run-up, Embiid foul trouble in the first half. What did you think of, the 3 fouls early that forced him to go to the bench with, I think it was only 5 minutes into the second quarter. Only ended up playing 10 minutes in the first half. What did you make of that? Did you, the refs, Embiid, Doc, how do you shift the blame there?
It seems that there was a lot of discourse about the lack of challenging for some of those calls.
Yeah.
And I would say that the through line on that is, you want to save the challenges, you want to use them strategically, but when it's involving the clear best player on the court and his availability and the direct impact that has on your, viability to win the game, then you use it, right? I didn't see all 3 of the fouls. I'm gonna flip this on its head, Cream. I'm all positive this week going into the summer. I'm all positive vibes guy. That's me. And them getting tested without the superstar MVP out on the floor and having to find a way, even against, record-wise, the worst playoff team. I thought there's value in that. There's value in getting that done and out of the way right away. And Tobias having confidence that, yes, he's done it during the regular season. It's a whole different animal once it's in the playoffs. And he came through. What did you think about, I guess, Doc's lack of challenging, the calls itself, and also how the team responded?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that the refs were not at the top of their game on Sunday. I thought both teams had some really legitimate gripes, with the refs, and Embiid as much as any. I think 2 of those 3 fouls were really soft. One of them I don't think was a foul at all, and that was the third one, which I really think Doc, hindsight 2020, I imagine he regrets not taking it, and it speaks to a trend that we see in that Doc does not use his challenges. He is the least aggressive challenging coach in the NBA. And this was an opportunity where, now I know they won the game, and we both acknowledged that even without Embiid, the game still looked pretty in hand for the entire game. But, against a Milwaukee or a Brooklyn, you can't afford to have Embiid miss 7 minutes of game action like that. That just can't happen. And I just think he ended up using the challenge, later in the game on a very nothing call, it just like a prayer. He just kind of wanted to use the timeout that it got him. Didn't really have a chance of being overturned. I just think there's a way to use this. I know the challenging, method in the NBA isn't very fine-tuned. It's pretty not very helpful, we'll say. But there's a way to use it efficiently and effectively, and I just think Doc Rivers kind of ignores that part of the game, which is frustrating. All in all, I think you may be right that it does give the team a little bit more experience playing without Embiid. There are going to be those minutes where you have to eat up when he's on the bench, but I just think it was mismanagement on Embiid, for obviously getting into foul trouble like that, picking up early fouls on Alex Len. You don't need to be that aggressive with Alex Len just because he had a couple of easy buckets. I think it really bothered Embiid early, but overall, not a big deal. He came out in the second half, and of course was just like, "Oh, that's regular old Embiid." He only played 10 minutes in the first. He came out of the second and really was the most impactful player on both teams, as you would expect him to be, right? He did everything you needed him to do. He was hitting clutch jump shots all through the fourth quarter. I can't really have too many gripes with this performance. 30 points. He was, the leading plus-minus guy. Get to the line 13 times. So overall, a great performance. It's just maybe in a tougher matchup, that miscue with the fouls, comes back to bite us a little bit more, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's been so dominant with that mid-range and, not needing any time to get acclimated. He comes right in and is ready to rock. And, dude, here's what I'll say about the coaches' challenges. The coaches, almost like that, like a cool teacher, they want to appease the star player or the class clown. They need them on their side. So, if they say use the challenge, if they make a good joke in class, all right, I'm going to let it slide. I'm going to use the challenge there. I'm going to let the class have a laugh. That's the coaching. I've said this really more about the NFL coaching, but it is about the management of the personalities and keeping your superstars happy or whatever. So the challenge in part is important to recognize that the star power is what generates usually it being called. And it's going to be something where, the guys on the Sixers beat, Derek Bodner and Rich Hoffman talked about it. Maybe it's something where your Doc is pivoting to his assistant coaches and saying, you guys, it is your signal. If you say we challenge, then we challenge. In all seriousness, as we get into more consequential games here, it'd be good to develop a system like that for that specific scenario. So I guess we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, agreed, definitely. And if the position's available, I mean, I'll throw my hat in the ring.
Oh, of course you would.
I'll tell Doc, hey, challenge it, stupid.
This is the one.
Yeah, this is it.
And he's
obviously.
He's like, I'm not challenging this shit for fucking Shake Milton. I'm not fucking doing that for him. What are you talking about?
Moving on to a slightly more controversial topic, and that was the play of one Mr. Benjamin Simmons. What could be more controversial than a 6-point, 15 assist, 15 rebound, 0 for 6 from the line, performance from Ben Simmons? I mean, just an amazing Simmons game for the first game of the playoffs. All eyes on him. How's he gonna do? And he just puts up that stat line. What is your reaction to that?
Okay, so I don't have the energy to get into the weeds on this again, okay? And the stat line is so perfect. It's so perfect to just summarize everything that he is. Now, here's the analogy I'm going to offer here, Cream.
Yeah.
When it comes to the Ben Simmons conversation this year in the playoffs, I implore the Sixers community at large to perform a hard reset. A reset that you would perform on a gaming laptop, a good old gaming laptop that has been very trustworthy and reliable. And you're not ready to trade it in. We're not quite ready to trade Ben Simmons yet and blow this core up, even though we see the glaring weaknesses. We want to go one more run, one more. We're going to shut it all the way down. We're going to hold that power button down, and then we're going to boot you back up. And we're going to enjoy whatever juice you can provide us, Ben. Okay. And a 15 rebound, 15 assist, 6-point outing is is just fine. If it ends in a win,
good enough.
That is the only analysis that I can offer. If the team wins, it's a good Ben Simmons game. That is the only analysis there is to be had about Ben Simmons moving forward. It's time for a hard reset and to go into this without complaints, without nitpicking. We know what he is. We have watched an exorbitant amount of Ben Simmons playing NBA basketball. We know exactly what he is. He's not going to change. Right. And it's time to just go into it open-minded and not expecting anything new.
You're certainly right about Simmons is not going to change. Like there's not going to be a dramatic, difference in the Ben Simmons we see in the playoffs versus the Ben Simmons we have watched all year, right? Like this is what he is. He is, 6'10", uber athletic, Draymond Green, and that was a Draymond Green stat line if I ever saw one. It's you're so right that we have to just we can't do the normal Ben Simmons talk. We can't do it because it's gonna exhaust us. It's gonna be every game. We can't we're not gonna survive if the entire Philadelphia Sixers community has to do the Ben Simmons talk after every single playoff game, after every single missed free throw. We just can't survive. So
that's not a hyperbole.
No, it's not. It's not. I literally don't have the energy for it. I can't get into the weeds like that. So the people who can, the people who are fighting on either side, I guess more power to you. But I would really, I would hope you would consider Jake's play. Just let it happen. Just let the games happen. And at the end of the day, we'll parse out what needs to be parsed out. But Ben, on a game like yesterday, the Sixers win. It's a good day. I'm not going to sweat the 6 missed free throws, even though 2 of them came in crunch time, and he was invisible for the last 5 minutes of the game. I'm not going to do it. I can't. He played good enough defense on Bradley Beal. 15 assists to 2 turnovers. Seems really good. That seems like a really good ratio. I will take that ratio any day of the week. As long as it, like you said, as long as it ends in a Sixers W. Clearly, he is not the guy that, Sixers fans have been hoping, waiting for. He's not that guy right now, so we do. I'm with you 100%. Hard reset on Ben Simmons. We're just going to watch the games. We're just going to watch, I think. So I applaud you, sir.
Yeah, and I think at the end of each series, hopefully, maybe we can do a minor check-in and just see if there was anything that jumped out. But you're going to get the passing. You're going to get the one highlight. We had our 180 tip dunk slam with a nice mean mug after. He's good for that. But what he's also going to be good for, especially with these matchups coming against better talent, is at the end of games, Doc Rivers is not going to take him out. And He is clearly a liability from the free throw line. And that is where this conversation may be the inflection point for his tenure here. Because if, there are close games in the Eastern Conference, we got to get there first. But he's not coming off the floor. And that's where the other team is going to target. And that is the tangible effect that will be borne out either way. If he can hit 1 of 2 or 2 of 2, or if he's consistently going 0 for 2, getting in his head and now not being as aggressive, that is going to be borne out in these future series. But for now, I suggest we table it.
Yeah, and you're right about that. That's an interesting part of the Ben Simmons conundrum is he's going to play. He's going to play the most of any of the Sixers. He led the Sixers in minutes yesterday. He will probably continue to lead the Sixers in minutes, I would imagine, or at least be top 2. With Tobias. He played 38 minutes. There's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to hide from it, and there's nowhere to hide from these trolls who just get in, they dig their way in, and then just get off their takes. That's why you gotta ignore them. So I'm with you, buddy.
Can't have an 0 from the free throw line again. That's the last thing.
No, yeah, you can really can't. 0 for 6. 0 for 6 is a bit much. 0 for 6. I don't want to make it seem like we're Ben Simmons apologists here. 0 for 6 is not. He cannot go 0 for 6 again. I am very glad it was just in Game 1 against the Wizards that he went 0 for 6. I hope and I pray that it doesn't happen for the rest of the playoffs.
Yep. All righty. Can we keep going here on these quick hitter Sixers topics?
Yes, absolutely. There was one other, so a few more spots. You want to talk about George Hill?
Just a brief. Let me just rattle off, some of those hard numbers. The reason people come to this pod. We talk about, clearly, adding the shooting in the offseason did so much for this team. Yeah. You got 3 bona fide shooters on this team. You got Furkan Korkmaz, who had a very rough outing this game 1, but that's okay. That's what happens. Shoot or shoot. Furkan, 40% this year from 3 on 5 a game. Danny Green, tremendous year, 40% from 6.3 attempts per game. Yeah. And, of course, Mr. Seth Curry, 45% on 4.9 a game. What I will say is that each one of those players does have a glaring weakness where when Furkan's not hitting shots, and if Danny is, right around average, he had a good game. But if he is not giving you those automatic corner threes, then you really need a stabilizing presence. You need a guy who is capable of hitting those catch and shoot threes, but can also truly handle the ball, not just dribble the ball, but handle the ball. And that's what George Hill offers. He's never going to blow you away. He's just going to make the right play. And I'm just really grateful that we have that he did have some time to get acclimated to, the rotational pieces around him. He's going to be playing with Dwight Howard, it seems like a little bit. And just being able to use him at the end of games and not have to worry about Ben being the sole person with a handle that you trust to not turn it over, to throw it into traffic, to give it up when they've got a clear line to the basket. He's never going to blow you away. I'm just really grateful to have his stabilizing presence on this team when it comes to the half-court initiation and crunch time.
Yeah, he was pretty solid yesterday. Came in off the bench, 11 points on 5 of 8 shooting. He hit a 3. He defended admirably. I think he was up against Westbrook a little bit. Neto, that's what you want. That's all you could have asked for when we traded for him. So, yeah, pretty good start to his Sixers playoff career for George Hill. And then any rest of the bench, I thought, played okay. Obviously, the shooting wasn't great. You mentioned Korkmaz over 3 from the field. Not great. Thibault over 2 from the field. Not great. But if there's one thing that I'm known for, it's for pleading with Doc Rivers. Play Matisse Thybulle more. He did not do it on Sunday. He played Thibault 13 minutes. I thought when he came in the second quarter, he gave the Sixers a real shot in the arm defensively. He guarded Beal. It was a short period, albeit, but I thought he did it really effectively. He got a couple steals, a couple blocks in 13 minutes. I just think him playing with the starters just opens up a lot more possibilities for his team. The Sixers didn't need it yesterday. Obviously, they got the win. But I still am going to be on my soapbox, fighting for more Matisse Thybulle minutes. Any other thoughts from the bench? I thought Dwight played okay.
Yeah, and Dwight is just going to have to. He's going to have to play. Like you do not have, and they were going at him a little bit, more. And the Wizards are a team that actually score more in the paint than you would think, which is a little surprising. It's just nice to have a legit rim protector in that second unit. You're not going to get those easy lobs and as much easy layups, and that always kind of energizes the other team. I got to push back a little bit on the Matisse stuff, only because, sure, with the starting lineup situationally, that defense would be smothering. But, dude, him and Ben, you look around at the spacing and doubling Joel. If you've got Ben Simmons and Matisse Thybulle, dude, like that just becomes so much easier. They're willing to let Matisse hit that first 3 because they're saying, we're going to give you 3 more and you're going to go 0 for 3 on the next 3. So as we progress and get to better talent, that is going to be something where, sure, man, defense is great and 2 blocks and 2 steals, that's great. But, 0 points, that's not great.
Right. I think there are ways to use him creatively. He's been really effective as a cutter this year. And his 3-ball, it's not like his 3-ball is that much worse than like Shake Milton right now, right? Like, neither of them are going in very often. That's all I know. I just think his defense is so elite. He does bring something extra to the game that some of these other guys don't. Obviously, we have to shout out Doc for waiting exactly one game into the playoffs to start the fourth quarter with the all-bench unit. I mean, this guy,
I love it.
The commitment to the bit is impressive, and he deserves to be applauded. It is who he is. He went 11 deep yesterday. I mean, is it just because it's the Wizards, or is this going to continue? Like, it's got to continue to an extent, right?
You're seeing this in the second round too,
yes,
in my opinion. And
okay.
You obviously this is your bit, so I'll let you have your time to shine. But what I would say is, as rigid as he has been at certain moments, you see like Furkan's 0 for 3 and like doesn't play the second half. Like he's like, you don't have it tonight.
Pulled, yeah.
So there is, a willingness to adjust. It's got to be pretty blatant for Doc to be like, you know what, we're gonna change it up.
Yeah, exactly. Got to be pretty drastic. Obviously, yesterday lineups were a little bit wonky with Embiid going out so early, missing such a significant amount of time in the first half. Except I'm curious to see what rotations look like the rest of the year. I do have one last topic on this game, and that is the shithousery of one Bradley Beal mocking Sixers players multiple times during the game. What did you make of this? He mocked Embiid several times after, for the flailing, and then, of course, Ben Simmons' ill-fated three-point attempt at the buzzer, which was really just not good. Beal, what'd you make of Beal? Like, maybe flaming the fire a little bit? Like, what'd you make of that?
I'm throwing it right back to you. Which one was more egregious, the Joel one or the Ben?
I'm upset about the Joel one. I'm upset. Like, this dude has been killing you all season. He literally, anytime he plays you, it's automatic 30. He got 30 again yesterday, only playing 29 minutes. Like, dog, you got to read the room, man. Like, you got to realize you're the worst team left in the playoffs. Like, we're the Sixers. We're the number 1 seed. We're going to stop you. And it made it. I didn't have a lot of hate for the Wizards. Like, I don't, just generally. I like Beal. Russ is okay. I'm not a huge Russ hater. But like that pissed me off, and now I really want to crush him. I want to sweep. I want multiple resting fourth quarters, like 20-point blowouts. I need that to show Bradley Beal like his place in the NBA hierarchy right now. I know he's a great player. I know he's a phenomenal scorer. But dude, you're on the Wizards, man. Like, have some perspective. Like, this is gonna be your only series. You guys are going home after this. Do you realize that? Like, the Sixers are gonna keep playing, and you're gonna go home. Like, he's got to realize that. Someone's got to tell him to just have some perspective. So that really, stroked the flames in me. Like, I really want to see a beatdown now, like in game 2. I want no mercy. No mercy. Run it up. Starters, like, in the fourth quarter, up 20. Keep them in. I want to bury this team now.
As the heart and soul of this podcast, as the emotional leader, I am a bit surprised that you needed this extra juice to get up for this series. Here we are in the playoffs,
yeah.
and you're like, you know what I need? He just got to me, man. Those celebrations, man, that just really got me going. I know it's a big moment and all matters anyway, but I really needed some extra juice to get going. And here you are saying, now you want to crush them.
I mean, it's the Wizards. Let's be honest. Before this, they didn't deserve my hatred. They didn't deserve my attention because they're the Wizards. But now I really do. I really feel the need to just show them exactly how far away they are. exactly how irrelevant their team is to the NBA landscape. That's what I want more than anything now.
Well, hey, I will certainly take a couple blowouts here.
Yes.
And a couple rest periods. I mean, Embiid only goes 30 minutes, but it'd be really nice to see sub 30 minutes for Embiid in one or two of these games and really, really coast in addition to this extra time that they have in between each game.
Let's get out of here in 4, man. Let's do it. Let's just. I'm sick of letting them have a game and like, maybe. Nah. Let's end
I don't
it.
want any of that. None of that
want any
Bleacher
of it.
Report coverage of them dropping one and them saying, well, you never know with this backcourt of Beal and Westbrook. You never know what they're capable of. I don't want any of that. Fuck that. Let's just make this clean. Let's make it as quick as possible. Let's get this shit over with.
Let's get them out of our lives as quickly as possible. That's what I say.
Do you have any other Wizards talk that you got to get off your chest now that they've become public enemy number one?
It's really just like, it's just Brad Beal, and it's just like, don't mock somebody who's better than you. Don't mock somebody who's like an MVP candidate.
This is the runner-up for scoring champion, dog. He's pretty good.
He's all right, man. They were like, what, 7 games under 500?
Oh my God. Oh no, I get it. I've been an emotional guy once or twice back in my day too, so I understand.
I needed to get that off my chest. Something about it. You're right that it's weird, but there's something about it that really just like tweaked out. I wonder if anybody else felt this way, because there was some like, they were getting, Bleacher Report was retweeting it, and like, it was getting some play, and it's just like, man, like there's gotta be some payback. There's gotta be some repercussions for this. You can't just do that on a team that's significantly worse than the one you're playing and just get away with it. He can't get away with it. That's my challenge to the Sixers.
Well, will see.
Don't let him get away with it.
We'll see if the Philly crowd has a couple chants prepared for Game 2. I will be listening with all ears for some unique chants, as we heard in the Madison Square Garden with Mr. Trae Young. If you want to start to transition out of the Sixers talk and talk NBA in general.
Oh wow! And what a NBA weekend it was. I mean, the first game of the first round. Usually, there's lots of lopsided affairs. Really unimaginative pairings. But I feel like this weekend was a really good showcase for the NBA playoffs that we haven't had in a while. The return of the crowds, of course, playing a factor in that. But let's just run through a couple of these series. Let's run through the series and then just stop if you want to touch on any of them. Nets beat the Celtics. I think we all expected that. The Nets shot horribly the entire game and still won because they're that much more talented than them. Any thoughts on that?
None whatsoever.
Cool. Bucks beat the Heat in overtime. Those two are currently playing right now, and Milwaukee is up big in the second quarter. They're up 29. Jesus. They're shooting the lights out right now. So that looks like it'll be 2-0 to the Bucks heading to Miami. This was a big matchup for the Sixers. Obviously, on the last day of the season, we avoid the Heat in the second round. The Bucks get the Heat. Clearly, they're not sweating that matchup.
Yeah, I mean, you don't ever want to put too much weight on that first game, but there are certain series, and I think, Dallas Clippers and Heat Bucks, like that first game, it's really important because now the opposition, they got to win 4 out of 6.
Yeah.
It's a totally different animal, and this playoffs, man, with this injection of talent and intensity and live audience, I mean, it almost feels like a different game, and the Heat forcing that game to go in overtime, Jimmy Butler shooting terribly, but hitting the clutchest of all clutch shots in that game just goes to show you those guys that you pay the big bucks to, even when they don't have it going, you want the ball in their hands at the end of the game. He made an amazing play to get it into OT. Now you get the feeling that woke up the Bucks, kind of scared them, jostled them awake a little bit. They're going to win tonight, and if they can get 1 of 2 down in Miami, this thing's going to be over in 5.
Cool. That's what I like to hear. I want all things Heat as far away from me as possible. In what I think was the game of the weekend. Atlanta Hawks in the Garden beating the New York Knicks. Trae Young having himself a moment. What did you think of Trae Young knocking down the floater with 1 second left remaining to steal that win in New York with the largest crowd of the NBA weekend? That was certainly a spectacle, to be sure.
Never been a Trae Young guy, but I don't think many people have. It seems like there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, I just don't really like Trae Young's game and the cheap fouls and But I was happy for him, man. He deserved that validation.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about entertainment? The last 5 minutes of that Hawks-Knicks game with that just electric crowd and energy. I mean, we talk about vibes here on these Philadelphia 76ers. The vibes in that arena were off the charts, unlike anything we've seen in years. I'm saying that literally. Seeing that crowd, seeing the juice and the intensity and the energy was just so welcome. And it's just such a fun game. And a little bit of cognitive dissonance both with the audience and then the teams themselves, these teams that have been, swimming in mediocrity oceans for these past couple of years. And here they finally get the big stage. And what a fun moment for everybody involved. I will say this, and if the Hawks make it out to meet us in the next round, if I am coaching against the Atlanta Hawks, every single time on offense, I am going at Trae Young, and I literally don't care. I don't care if they send help. I don't care if it's just a small guard going against him. Every single time I am going at him, and I think we're going to see more of that with this series with the Knicks.
Yeah, we'll definitely see when, New York doesn't exactly have the best shot makers, which made that game, the ending of that game so incredible because both teams were just making tough shot after tough shot. That's what partially made it so electric is how unexpected it was. Guys like Derrick Rose and Alec Burks, our old friend, of course, just making tough shots.
Always liked Alec Burks. Always liked him.
Yeah, man. What could have been? What could have been if he had been healthy for the playoffs? We'll never know. But you're absolutely right that New York probably doesn't have the ball handlers to take advantage of a mismatch like Trae Young when he presents on defense. But that's a series that I don't think is over by any stretch. New York is obviously going to be a super tough out. That defense is legit, and they really, for 90% of the game, they really held the Hawks scores in check. I'm excited to see what happens with that, and who our second round matchup is going to be. That'll be a fun one.
I mean, Randall had a horrendous game, and they're still very much in it at the end. You did see a little bit of R.J. Barrett get switched on to Trae and punish him a couple times.
Right.
But, in terms of trying to extract these themes that can apply to other series, you see, teams not shooting the ball well or the star player not playing well and then being in a position to steal it at the end. With both Jimmy Butler and Julius Randle, you have your clear best player not playing
alpha
well.
Dog guy, yeah.
Right, not playing well, and then Randle hits a really big three in the Knicks game, and Jimmy makes a very clutch layup to send it in OT. Both teams end up losing, but it goes to show you that if a team like that is at the end of a game and is in a position to maybe steal one with their shots not falling, with their star player not at their optimal level, that's where you get into being able to swing a series territory. So we'll see if as these series progress, usually it is game one where you're in a position. Everything's new. Everybody's feeling each other out. It's the first time you're going up against them in this high-intensity environment. We'll see if either team gets another chance when they underperform to still grab that win at the end.
Yeah, that's a good point. It definitely was a high variance situation first game of the playoffs. Excited for all these series to continue. Heading out west, we have Portland beating Denver in the first game, a very close game. Obviously, Denver without Jamal Murray. I think that matchup is lacks some of its star power. I, for one, am excited to see Jokic get bounced in the first round. That would be fun for me. What about you?
So Jokic in that game, 1 assist.
Wow.
That's the statistic that jumped out. And this is what I'll say. Look, I don't want to get into the weeds on this one either, but here's what I'm going to say. Our MVP center, if he's just all offense, he's going to find a way to will you to the game with his offense, with his free throw shooting and getting calls ability and just his dominance on offense. We've seen it a couple times this year. With Jokic, when he's just a scorer and you take away, his best thing, which is facilitating, which is, I think, harder to do than necessarily shutting a guy down from scoring, then he can't affect the game in the same way. Because if you don't have to, worry about him dropping 35 or 40 as much as you do Joel, where you literally can't stop him or he's getting to the line, it just struck me as like the star power in terms of the scoring ability, where a guy like Joel can literally score you and all the way into a victory, where Jokic can do it. He doesn't want to do it. He wants to assist. So 1 assist in that game, that maybe strikes me as a blueprint where if they do find a way to get out of it, not that they're doing anything serious this year anyway, that's how you limit what he does best.
Yeah, and that's clearly a strategy for Portland's perspective, is cut off, the playmaking that makes him so special. Let him go to work early. But you try to contain the other guys. Try to contain Michael Porter Jr., Will Barton, Aaron Gordon. You contain those guys, and Jokic is a little, easier to handle. So you're right with that one. We'll see what happens with that moving forward. And then we have the Grizzlies beating Utah in that late game last night. Good for Ja Morant, just like continuing his ascension as a legit star in the league. But Utah was missing Donovan Mitchell. They're going to get him back game 2. I don't expect the Grizzlies to pull out the upset on that one. I don't know about you.
No, I don't think so. But, kind of backtracking just to like Nurkic's matchup with Jokic is interesting, just like Jonas Valanciunas going against Gobert, where it's these big, burly, lumbering bodies.
Old school centers,
that can kind of cause some trouble for some of these newer wave guys. Not that Gobert really is, but like you would think a guy like Gobert, it's like, oh, he's not gonna, big body dude isn't really gonna bother him, but kind of does. Like, it's not really what
his main strength really is rim protection. It's stopping, opponent guards and wings from getting the basket. That's what's made him so successful. Since there aren't as many of these big bodies in the NBA, he doesn't really have as much to worry about with them, So that's always been a little bit of a not an issue for Gobert because he's still pretty good defensively, but that's not his strength. Is batting down low. His strength is reading the defense and with that help side block. That's kind of his thing. So that'll be a fun one as well. I think all of these. I hate to be a like a company man for shilling out for the NBA, but these are some pretty good matchups. We got always some stuff, and then of course the two of the biggest series of the week. Both LA teams go down. The Mavs behind Luka Doncic, just completely overpowering the Clippers. The Clippers, every time you thought that they were gonna make a run, get back into the game, take the lead, Luka Doncic was there, hitting a step back 3, breaking his man down, getting to the basket, getting to the line. I mean, as complete a performance as I think we saw over the opening game for your guy, Luka Doncic. What are your thoughts on the Clippers, and are they in trouble?
Right before these playoffs started, I was like, listen, man, these Clippers, look at all these 3-point bombers. Look at that defense, dog. And for them to just come out and lose game 1, it literally
total fucking Clipper move. Yeah.
You want to talk about the most consequential game 2? It goes one of two ways. Either they tie it up and they can just take care of business and still win in 6, or they implode. They go down 0-2, and literally Kawhi is thinking, oh my God, all I've ever wanted to do is just live where I'm from in LA and just play here and I've already got my chips. And now here he is with this dumpster fire of a fucking organization that has just tried to like casually be like, oh, we're fine the entire time. They literally are the we're fine expression that is just taken the completely wrong way, where it's like, no, you guys need help. You need someone to tell you what to do, what you're doing wrong, and how you can fix it. And you can say Ty Lue's done a pretty good job, he has, but whether it's saying to Kawhi, hey, we know we want to conserve your energy, but we're going to need you to guard Luka in order for us to win this series. Then we'll work it out next round. There's going to need to be some adjustments. I am not going to waver. I'm still picking them to win the series. It'll be 6 or 7, and I think it's going to be Kawhi on Luka is what you're going to see coming out with Game 2. That is a huge Game 2 with some massive implications for fans, for analysts, for free agency. I mean, it's got a lot of intrigue.
That would be the most consequential, first round exit, of the last 2 years, is if the Clippers go out in round one.
Without a doubt.
I think you're right that my biggest takeaway is that like this is the same Clippers team, like that the same one we saw last year fail after going up 3-1 versus Denver. This is the same team. They don't have a point guard. They don't have anybody to get them into their offense, and they don't have an identity once they do that. Their regular season identity was just hitting 45% from three, and shocker, that doesn't happen in the playoffs. You're not going to do that. I think they're in legitimate trouble. Maybe they get out of this round, just on talent. They have as much talent as anybody in the league, obviously, but I think they're in real trouble moving forward, and this team is going to have to, take a long look in the mirror and get ready for this Game 2. But that's definitely one. I mean, you got to earmark that one. Luka, and you can't say enough about him. Just like on Paul George, on Kawhi, didn't matter. He was getting to his spot. He was going to hit the bucket. Just like clutch shooting that the likes that you rarely, we always talk about in the playoffs, but you rarely ever see, and it's just special to watch him continue to evolve into like a total complete game changer. I think it's great. It's great to watch.
Yeah, I mean, he had a tremendous series against them last year in their 6-game loss, but he's he's special. A lot of fun to watch. Glad that we don't have to go up against him.
Yes. Yeah, that'd be tough. And then the last series, Phoenix Suns beating the Lakers. Now, what did you think of this one? I'm on record as saying I think the Lakers are going to go to the finals. Obviously, this was not a great start to that campaign. Do you think that this win changes anything, or what? What do you think?
I mean, I think the big takeaway is if CP3 is all good, or if this is going to be a lingering concern. Because that is just, I mean, you want to talk about a guy with inopportune dings and nicks of injuries that have just been so much like the worst possible timing. Listen, if you remember last year, the Lakers dropped Game 1 to the Rockets against Russell Westbrook and James Harden. I mean, they have lost initial games under the LeBron James tenure and been okay. The difference is a guy like DeAndre Ayton, who went out there 21-16, had a massive game. They don't really have the bodies to throw at a competent big man. They don't have JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard. And sure, you can laugh at that, but I mean, it's the truth. I see this still going the Lakers' way, but now I see it going 7. And I have confidence the Lakers can win a Game 7 in Phoenix, but they certainly made it harder on themselves, and it's going to come down to CP3. Just even in that game, once he came back, that mid-range, his comfort getting to those spots where he is literally every time I've ever watched him automatic from those little, mid-range fading jumpers that he has just carved out a career with. Being so reliable from those spots. So I still got the Lakers. It just became a little bit tougher, and it all comes down to CP3. If this is something where 3 days rest and it's like, all right, I'm ready to get right back out there, versus you got to be really, really careful, because not just for this series but for a legit run, not to tweak something. That's going to be a primary concern and analysis.
I agree. I agree with the series. I have a different take on who it's all about now. It's all about Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis last year was arguably the second best player on the planet in the playoffs. He was amazing. He was hitting every shot. He was so efficient all over the floor. You know, destroyer of worlds on defense. You know, the whole package. He has been a complete shell of himself and just got completely outplayed by DeAndre Ayton. That cannot happen. Like, that is not part of the plan. The Lakers, their master plan does not include Anthony Davis getting outplayed by DeAndre Ayton. That if they want to go anywhere in this series, let alone the playoffs as a whole, it's on Anthony Davis just like getting it together, man. Like, just, you don't have to be 28, 29 point scorer, super efficiently, but like, you got to get back to at least, 23, 24, pick your spots to dominate, playing elite defense, getting back. His performance was probably the most disappointing of the weekend, and that's going to cost the Lakers if he doesn't pick it up. I mean, we saw a glimpse of this in the regular season, but everyone figured it was just fatigue and injury and the COVID short layoff, like all this stuff. But it's the playoffs now. If he can't flip the switch, I don't know how long their season's going to last.
That's a great point, and again ties back into there aren't really any other rotational bodies to throw out there for roughing up an opposing center, or because AD's game is a little bit more finesse. He wants to go out to the 3-point line and get a couple of those shots off to space the floor. It's not banging down low as much. So when he's really your only reliable big man, then all the more pressure and microscope gets put on him. So that's a great point and something that you're probably right about in terms of swinging this series back into the Lakers' favor. It's got to be on his shoulders.
I think Montrezl Harrell has been probably one of the more disappointing free agency signings.
Absolutely.
He was supposed to come in and really just provide a spark offensively that he's just not. And you just see him getting completely lost on defense, losing track of his assignments, not being in the right place. Like, he's short, and that's always was going to limit him as like a center, his size. But at least be positionally aware. At least know where you have to be in certain looks. That's where this smaller centers have thrived. Draymond Green, of course, comes to mind. Montrez just like looks completely lost on defense, and if he's not like putting in that work on offense on those boards, if he's not going to be able to do that because DeAndre Ayton he's just bigger than him. He can't really be playing. And Marc Gasol, likewise has been a shell of himself. They're going to have to go 80 at the 5, spread it out, try to get as many 3-point shooters, on the court at once and kind of go old school with it, like LeBron, AD, those are your guys. You got to put them in positions to succeed. I did not expect the Lakers to lose that game. I don't expect that they'll lose the series, but it will be closer than I thought. It'll probably go 6 or 7, and that's bad news for the Lakers' title chances.
Some very big game 2s coming up with a lot of collateral damage, possibly.
Mm-hmm. To round out our NBA coverage here, any hot takes about what you expect to happen? Any upset alerts? Do you have anything significantly change from the first game, significantly change what you were expecting?
First, just to say, the March Madness vibes were fucking awesome.
Real, yeah, very real.
The wackiness, you get Dallas winning, you get just all around. Some great finishes, some great dunks, just awesome all the way around. Really enjoyed watching it. I'm not going to say anything swayed me too much. I think, after game 2, I'll have plenty more thoughts because, game one, a couple of these teams tie it up 1-1, and then it's, maybe it takes an extra game,
Then
So,
what do you really have there?
Right.
You're probably right.
I do want to just say one thing. Like, if you're looking at, this weekend, very entertaining. The most surprising thing, the thing that jumped out the most that I was literally flabbergasted at is Giannis getting called for the 10-second free throw violation. I was fucking incensed. I was like, you're going to call this now?
Unbelievable.
I could not believe it.
No. It's just the refs this weekend were on a completely different level. I don't know if it was the layoff. I don't know what. But, man, it was a tough weekend for those guys. They got to, rebound. They got to get together, man. They got to have a meeting or something. It was not good. It was not good. The reffing across the board, teams, series, I didn't like it at all.
The expression, they were on one, that's literally, the refs this weekend, they were on one, man. They really needed some assistance. And I guess that's all I have to say about that. If you have anything else, do you, just one last Sixers thing, and then I swear I'm done. Do you see blowouts? Either way, do you see blowouts coming in this Washington series, or is it going to be in the mud, yucky all the way in the middle into the fourth?
I'm hoping I see some blowouts. So
I think you might see one both ways. I think you might see Sixers up 3-0, and then Washington goes ahead and gets game 4 in a blowout, and then, we take care of business game 5. I think you might see one both ways.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. We don't get blown out. Sixers don't get blown out. They don't have enough.
I love it.
No, they can't. So
I love it.
I'm sweep, no blowouts. That's what I'm talking about. Moving on. Okay. It's been about a month since we talked about anything non-Sixers related, but the Eagles did kind of do something. They signed Ryan Kerrigan. Do you have any thoughts on the former Washington defensive end, changing NFC teams, heading to the Eagles? What does that do for the team this year?
Simple expression here. I was pleasantly surprised. This is a solid signing. Clearly the focus has been on the lines this offseason, which, again, is understandable. But Kerrigan, just super high character guy, can just be a really good presence in the locker room. Talked about, in some of his interviews so far with the team, he goes, yeah, people have forgotten this team made the playoffs 3 years in a row. That happens from an organizational standpoint. And, obviously you're dealing with a whole influx of, new coaching staff and expectations. This being a bridge year, gap year, whatever, seeing if Jalen Hurts is a guy. But, Kerrigan is going to do and say the right things. And it's not like he's a zero production-wise.
No.
And he was with some talented guys over there with the Washington nameless team. But, he's
caused
got
a lot of problems. Caused a lot of problems on against the Eagles. That's for sure.
Right. And he's got some good players here as well. So, I could see him getting, 3, 4, or 5 sacks. Let's see how he's going to be played as well. It is the one thing that I keep trying to bring myself back to is I've gotten so used to the Jim Schwartz defense
yes.
that it is going to be a real doozy tuning in to see a completely new defense with changes at the line and utilizing linebackers, just
yes.
A lot of movement pre-snap and stuff. So it's definitely going to take some change. But overall, really like the Kerrigan signing and pleasantly surprised by its competent and well-fitting nature.
Yeah, I agree. I think he'll be a solid signing. Clearly, didn't cost much. We were able to wait until the end of free agency to sign him. That's always a pretty good deal. Get low risk, high reward. I'm for it. One other, another non-Sixers related topic, even non-Philly sports related topic that I feel like I wanted to talk about the last couple weeks, and we just haven't gotten to it, and it's just continued, and that is Mr. Shohei Ohtani. What is this man doing to baseball? Can you explain it? Can anybody who knows more about baseball than me, can you explain what's happening? Because from my eyes, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He's leading the AL in home runs. He has 14 home runs, and he has a 2.3 ERA over 6 starts. Like, is this not the most amazing thing? I know the Angels are bad, but like, should we be talking about this more?
Cream, you are so right on
Yes,
this
like what?
talking point. If this dude played for the New York Yankees, he would be on the front of ESPN, Bleacher Report, Yahoo Sports, fucking the UK. He'd be internationally fucking all over. This is the coolest thing, and he's on the fucking most boring ass team with another generational player that literally nobody cares about. Nobody
cares. Nobody cares about this team. They do not matter. They are last place in their division. They have two of the most talented players in baseball. For my money, like, this seems harder than playing just two. This seems harder than being a two-sport athlete, like playing baseball and playing football or something. This seems kind of low-key harder because you're in the same season. Like, you're just double the workload. He's got to scout hitters. He's got to watch film on, when he's pitching. He's got double the scouting work. He's got, double the work for his arm. I know he's not, fielding position outside of, playing pitcher, but like, man, like the stuff that is on this guy's plate and to be doing both at such an elite level, I mean, it's just uncanny. It was a nice story like a month into the season, and then it was like, oh wow, he's still going. And that was a month ago, and he's still doing it. He's got 14 home runs. He's got 30 innings of like legitimately really good pitching performance. There's not much else I can say. I'm just astonished that he's able to do these things. I mean, I wish I was getting like push notifications every time he was pitching, or like, notifications every time he hit a home run, because that's the level of like talent that this guy has. It's unbelievable.
He's the type of player in a league without any stars where like every single time that he is starting at an opposing ballpark, the advertisements for what you could be witnessing should be literally a promotional event that the marketing team of that baseball organization is like, this is going to be the game where every single seat that we can sell is sold. Because for me, not even being a huge baseball fan, I would pay through the nose to see this performance live. And the last thing I'll say, Cream, that question, two-sport athlete versus athlete that plays both sides on the same sport, that has the makings of a Jake's 3-question segment. So I want you to keep that energy, just like you're keeping the energy with the Brad Beal hate. I want all this energy, all the smoke. I want you to bottle it all up.
That we'll have to, next time we have Ray on, we'll have to hit him with that. He won't be expecting it.
That's perfect.
Yeah. Okay. One last thing before we get out of here. The WNBA season has started, man. It's been kicked off. Have you picked a team to root for? How familiar you are with the proceedings?
I'm not very familiar. I'm not going to pose as though I do know, and I'm gonna pivot here, and I'm gonna consult you. You know my identity. You know my personality. Yes. I would like you to assign me a team that you think I will gel with, that maybe has a player or two that I can really get behind. This is your time to shine, buddy.
Okay, so first I have to ask you a couple questions.
Certainly.
Do you prefer a front runner, or do you want kind of an up and coming?
Up and coming all the way.
How do you feel about star power? Is it a must, or is it kind of take it or leave it, or do you prefer the the ragtag group of misfits?
I come from a fairly starless universe, so yes. I'm okay with the ragtags.
Okay, so I will give you this then. I will give you the Phoenix Mercury. I think now they're not the team that's favored to win it all. There are a couple teams ahead of them. The favorites this year are going to be the Seattle Storm and the Las Vegas Aces. They were in the finals last year. But the Phoenix Mercury, what they have is they have a three-pronged attack, kind of like the Sixers. They got Diana Taurasi, Brittany Griner in the middle, and then Skylar Diggins-Smith on the wings. Those three players are really what drive everything that they do. And through those three players, they have a really talented defense and a really, at times, potent offense. They're a team that I think is going to be on the rise. They've been hampered with injuries the last couple of years. I think that would be the perfect one for you. They have a little bit of a star killer mentality. They've been overlooked the last couple of years because they've been, a little bit injured, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But I think that those three players in particular have a chance to, put their imprint on this season and really be effective. I'm going to give you the Phoenix Mercury to look after.
Splendid. That sounds like a lot of fun. And until Philadelphia gets a WNBA team, I will be happy to root for the Phoenix Mercury. Yeah. Las Vegas Aces. What a cool name.
It's a very cool name. Very cool team. They got all the talent. They for the last couple of years, they've been just accruing talent, kind of like the LA Dodgers of a few years ago. We're just like trying to get over the hump. They've got like 3 number 1 overall picks on their team. Last year's MVP, Asia Wilson, on the squad. They're the team to beat right now. So but they got all the stars, man. I can't give you the Brooklyn Nets of the WNBA.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I don't want to enter that way.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's all for me. I thought we made good time today. I thought we did pretty good. Jake, do you have any last words before we get out of here?
Just that. Listen, man, you're seeing some crazy parlays hit out there with these notifications I'm getting. I'm getting a little itchy. And, man, could you imagine if you had both the LA teams losing? That would have been a very fat payoff. So, hey, maybe it's time to put some money down on some crazy situations. That's what I'm going to leave you with.
Wow, that is something to consider. Just getting a report, Tobias Harris for NBA Finals MVP plus 30,000. Do it or you're a coward.
I love it.
That's all right. Good enough for me. This has been the Eric Jr. Podcast. Thank you as always for listening. We will see you again next week. Bye.